Talking Grit, a Detroit Lions podcast. Powered by the Monroe County Reporters. Here are your hosts, Jason Harwood and Jacob Litton.
Welcome to a long-awaited episode of Talking Grit. It's been a while since we talked with everybody, including me, Jason Harwood, talking with my friend, Jacob Litton. This is probably the longest since we started the podcast that we have not physically talked to each other, I think.
Right. I almost forgot what you looked like.
I know. That's probably a good feeling, right? It was a
Right.
little shocking when I came on
like,
the screen.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. He somehow looks older and his ears are bigger. I don't know how that's possible.
Jason vacation in Florida and somehow came back even pastier than when he left.
That's right. You know it, man. My whole goal was to try not to wear any sunscreen down there and just avoid the sun altogether. It was almost a goal that almost came true. It's kind of the reason why this has been delayed. The short story is, and I'll tell the long story probably at the end of the podcast because we want to get to the line stuff. But the short story is, I was on vacation and then I got sick leading into it, which caused a delay and a change of plans and everything like that. So I am feeling better. However, I do still have some coughing fits here and there. So I will try to edit those out of this as best as I can. And Jacob, if you just got to talk for extra long, just, while I'm over here hacking up a lung, go ahead and do that.
It's funny. I actually started not feeling well, earlier. So I've been sneezing a little bit myself. So we might both have to just mute this.
That's a good thing we're remote, man. It's a whole COVID situation again. We're in different rooms, we don't we wear masks and everything.
Going around like crazy again.
It is. It's disgusting. Real quick, how was your Christmas with the kids and everything? Good?
Christmas went well until the Lions played. But we already talked about that. Everything went well. Yeah. I took a little break. We didn't go on vacation anywhere, but I was off of work, so it was a good time. Yeah. Really good time spent with the family.
All right. Well, I'm happy to hear that. I always like to hear that the kids had a good Christmas. Such a good time. Your kids are at the right age. I'm sure JJ is at the age where he just wants to get over with and get back to bed, but the other ones are probably still pretty excited about Christmas.
Exactly. Yeah, I have that very, very strange, I guess, unique thing where I've got a 14-year-old, I've got an 8-year-old, and then I've got the about to be 4-year-old, and Rosie just turned 2 over Christmas break too. So I've got them all different ages. I've got them in all different stages of childhood. So I'm experiencing it all at the same time.
That's good. Well, it's fun. It's good to relive Christmas through their eyes because you lose a little bit of the magic as you get older. But then when you become a parent, you regain a lot of it back and just in a different perspective, I guess. All right, man. You've already talked about it. We're not going to talk about the Viking game. I don't even want to think about that game ever again in my entire life. First of all, I was sick in bed. I had muscle aches and I was trying to stomach the game. I don't know if it was what was making me more sick to my stomach, the sickness or the way the Lions were playing. It was a bad combination.
Moving on. I don't want to talk about it anymore. It's painful enough that right now, this podcast, we're not previewing a playoff matchup. Let's not go even further back.
I know. Just, all-time bad memories from that. And let's talk about the Bears. Okay, the Bears game. We're going to quickly go over this because obviously Johnny Morton was fired earlier today. That's the topic that we want to get to. There's a lot of meat on the bone there that both Jacob and I talk about, but I think we'd be doing a disservice if we didn't talk a little bit about this Bears game before we move on. We're not going to get into our usual breakdown of this game just because at the end of the day, it didn't mean that much. There's no game after this to look forward to. So we're just going to kind of talk some interesting points or thoughts that we had during this game. So I'll let you start, Jacob. Where do you want to go with this?
First, I'm happy that we were able to go 2-0 against the Bears so that at least they don't have the whole Ben Johnson thing against us head to head. Obviously, that's what Bears fans have stuck on. They obviously won the NFC North, so they've got all that going for them. We'll see if they get a playoff win. Time will tell. But, it was nice that we were able to really take it to them, obviously, the first time that we played. And then in a game where it didn't really matter as much for us, but, for them at this point, the seeding and everything mattered. So it was nice to be able to come out with a win against the Bears. And that sets up next year's storylines even better about how, regardless of whatever happens in the playoffs for the Bears, when we play them next year, it'll still be, Ben Johnson couldn't beat the Lions last year. So we've got that going for us. I was happy about that. And then I was also just happy that, the big story on the Bears is that they've never had a 4,000-yard passer, right? So it was always like, Caleb Williams, Ben Johnson, they're going to get it done this year. And it was within reach when they played this week. And, obviously some of the struggles we've had defensively, a lot of people were thinking that was going to happen, almost anticipating it like Myles Garrett's sack record. And that did not happen. So that's a good feeling that we were able to, to squash that record for him.
Yeah. At this point, the only thing the Bears can really hold out for is an 18-game season, right? So they can. That's the only way that they're going to get a quarterback, most likely Caleb Williams, to the 4,000-yard mark, is they're just going to have to add another. They've already added the 17th game, and they still can't get there. Get really close. They broke their record for as many. That Caleb Williams. What did he end up? It was 3,900 something, right? Or I don't know exactly where he.
I want to say he was like maybe 60 yards away, 50, 60 yards away.
Yeah, I was just glad that we weren't a part of that. Going in, one thing I was most frightened of is them hitting that, winning the division, like all these, Ben Johnson getting over Dan Campbell, like all those storylines. And this game started out just like every Bears game that I've watched this season. They are crap for the first half. They're absolutely crap for the first half. And then, things happen. They get the right turnovers. Like Bears fans are going to have.
Things happen. I just like how you said that, because that really just seems to explain every game that I've watched. I've watched a handful of them too. And it's just like, they don't look very impressive. We've said this. I'm not impressed by them. I don't understand it. But that's a good way to put it. Just things happen. I don't know how else to say it. Just things happen. Something falls their way. Something happens.
It does. I mean, like even Goff in this game throwing that interception, that's so un-Goff like to do that. And it just popped up into Byard's hands. And, we could talk about that in a little bit, but that, and then you look at the Bengals game when they came back, they got that, I think it was Komet, or I don't know if it was Komet or Loveland caught that pass. And
it was Loveland, that like 60 yard right at the end. Yeah.
And then obviously the onside kick versus the Packers the week or two prior. It's just things like that just kept happening. And they're like, what is their turnover differential? Like plus 22. Though that is not going to happen next year. It's just not going to happen like that. The fact that you're going to be down under and come back 6 times when you're down under 2 minutes, that's unlikely to repeat itself. There's going to be a correction to the mean for them, and it's going to be very harsh next year. We'll see. I mean, they could improve. I mean, they could get, they could have a good draft or whatever. And then maybe that as a point is moot, but they've had a lot of things go right this year, along with the Lions playing absolute garbage for, half the games this year. So I like a correction to the mean for next year. I'm not overly worried about the Bears going next year. Now, they probably play a little bit better than I give them credit for, because I just hate the Bears. They did win the division. They did what they had to do, but very fluky.
They've had a handful of games where it looks like they showed up to play. And like you said, kind of in their defense, some of those were against the game against the Eagles. I couldn't believe when I was watching that game. I was like, what is going on? Why, they crushed the Browns. Obviously, they held it with the Packers, but, just not impressed by them. I'm not concerned with them at all. I don't think there's any chance they make any sort of playoff run. I mean, the odds are stacked against them to beat the Packers.
The worst thing about the playoffs is now they got to play the Packers. That means one of them's moving on. That makes me so upset.
Right. I'll be rooting for the Bears to beat the Packers. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm probably with you there. Although I just don't want to hear from either one of their fan base. Oh, we made it to the second round of the playoffs. Whatever.
Think about how many things the Bears have been able to brag about for the last 5 years, though.
Yeah, sure.
Let them have. It's been that kind of year. This has been a crazy season in the NFL. I forget, I think maybe almost every division, did not have a repeat winner, right? Was it the Eagles that were the only one that was a repeat division champion?
In the NFC, yes, it'd have to be the Eagles. Yes, because no one else in the NFC. The AFC, the
Who
Broncos, they wouldn't have repeated. The Steelers did not. The Steelers didn't win their division last year. Patriots obviously
Patriots?
didn't win their division. And who's the last one? Or or who won? The Texans won, right? Did they? I can't remember if they won
No,
their
the
division last year. Oh, Jacksonville won it. Yeah. So yeah,
right.
there's only about Eagles are the only
Yeah.
ones that repeat
Right.
the
Which
whole
is
thing.
crazy. Right. And I mean, there's just been so many. It's like upset every week. Somebody that's supposed to lose or get crushed is beating these better teams. It's going to be an interesting playoff round, right? I mean,
That's why I wanted the Lions in there so bad because no matter how we played throughout the year, it could have. I mean, we could have turned it on at that right time and been fine. Because I mean, I think that Seattle is probably the most well-rounded team. I think the Rams are pretty good. I mean, both of those are probably 1 and 2 in my book as far as the teams to beat. However, we took the Rams to the mat, and really, there's some calls in that game that could have went the other way. That the Lions could have, in their building, we gave them a run for their money. Seattle's tough, but I think Seattle's very beatable if you get Sam Darnold in the right positions. He will turn the ball over, and you could, win a game, eke out a game like that.
that's the
Let
thing
me
is
ask you.
none of these teams are like unbeatable. Every team that you
Right,
look at, you're like,
exactly.
yeah, they've had some like rough looking weeks. They haven't been. It sucks to bring it up again, but it's not like last year. It's not like, when we were on such a roll and even with all the
Mhm.
injuries and everything that happened, it's like, man, we're just going to be so tough for somebody to take out. And then obviously it did not go our way. I think the bye week
Yeah.
kind of killed us.
All right, let me ask you this. Going into, because I haven't asked you this. We didn't
Okay.
talk leading up to this game. Going into the game, was there any part of you that wanted the Lions to lose just to get a better draft pick? Was there any part of you that said,
Zero.
okay,
I am not in the business of losing. I don't care. Especially like I think the best we could have done was like 13th, right? And the worst was like 18th or whatever it was.
yeah, somewhere in that
No,
range, yeah,
100%. No part of me is like, no, we'll just, forget this game. Absolutely not.
yeah.
What about you? Did you think that?
Uh, I'm with you. I mean, I can rationally see, like, do I want a better draft pick? Yes, but losing is not the way to get there. I mean, if everybody else, like, rooting for every other possible combination to get us there. I mean, I was rooting for the Ravens on, Sunday night just because I didn't care really who won that game.
What a tough way for your
Actually,
season to end.
yeah. Oh man, God, Harbaugh. I'm
And your
sure that
coaching
got
career.
Harbaugh
Yeah.
fired too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
So no, I think afterwards I would have rationalized like, if we'd have lost, I'd have been like, at least there's a positive out of it. You know how I look at the positive of try to look at positive at the end. But going into it, it is impossible. I figure it's impossible for me to like watch a Lions game and have any other feeling than I want to win and I want to dominate. Like I don't know if it's a competitive nature of me. I don't know, whatever it is about me, but when I'm watching a game, I don't care. I mean, we could be going for the number one draft pick, and I still would want to win that game. Later on, I could rationalize it or whatever, and be like happy about getting the number one pick. If that were the case, but I want us to win a game. I can't sit there and watch my team and root for them to lose. And I don't know how any fan can do that. I just can't separate myself out like that and then think of, well, it's better if we lose. I just can't do that.
Right. Even when we were down, even when it was like, the last like maybe 4 or 5 games of the season didn't matter. There's just never been a time where you're like, well, at least we'll lose. I guess that's a good
Mhm.
point is that you can always, that lessens the blow a little bit to be like, well, it helped our draft position or this or that. The only thing I will say about this game is like I was completely okay with just sitting Penei Sewell. Like there's no need, he's been banged up, which is kind of interesting about the Decker situation because he probably could have, we didn't really, there was no purpose for him to be out there unless he kind of thought maybe this was his last one.
Mhm.
You know, Anzalone had like the whole like personal reasons / concussion. I'm completely okay with it being, hey, it's not as important. Limit the reps or these guys that are kind of banged up, just don't put them out there. I'm okay with that, but never like, hey, you know what? Let's just dumb down the playbook. We'll take it easy. We'll kind of let them, we'll change up our play calling and, change up our scheme. Like just no.
Yeah. I mean, if Gibbs or Goff would have got hurt and then say it, God forbid, is like Achilles or ACL, then everybody would be coming out saying, "Why would you even playing them?" And I guess they would have sort of an argument, but first of all, you can't sit everybody, right? You only have so many amount of players. You're going to have to place people. And I think sometimes when you play backups, especially at key positions, you're risking other people getting hurt because they're playing harder, they're playing out of position, something like that. So I was okay with them playing. I don't think that the way Amon Ra was celebrating, he was into that game and wanted to win that game. And you saw after Bates kicked the field goal how they celebrated. It was, they had won the game. They wanted to win that game. And I think when you get the type of players the Lions get, no one's going to be playing to lose. They're on the field. They're playing to win.
And you know what? A winning record means something. We lose that game, and then all of a sudden we have a losing record, and then that's kind of like tarnished everything that we've done just because, hey, it was a losing record. Now, yes, it was impressive. It was only 9-8, but it was still a winning record, and that made every team in the NFC North finish with a winning record. That's the first time in I think like 5 or 6 years or something like that that's happened. Not that I care about the rest of the NFC North, but I'm just saying that winning record does matter.
Yes. Well, yes, I was happy. That's fourth season in a row for the winning record. First time since the early 70s that's happened for the Lions. Yeah, and it also changes the narrative for next year. If we go under 500, then every other fan base throws that in your face. Like, you guys couldn't even get to 500, last year. Like, it all becomes, like, even if, say, well, you could even rationalize, well, we played without our best right tackle in the last game. We sat certain players because of injuries that probably could have played in that game. No, we win that division. And what really kind of hurts even more is that everybody in the NFC South is under 500, right? So we could have, you're in any one of those other divisions and you probably win that division. We just happen to be in one of the tougher ones.
Exactly. It's a gauntlet, and we knew that. The really painful thing is just the games against the Vikings.
Yeah.
They're just
they
like
were
both of them,
winnable games.
Of them. Right. They just.
Well, when you hold the team to less than 10 yards passing and you lose, especially the way we lost, kept turning the ball over. God.
Yeah. I don't want to keep going back to it, but I can't. Right. Can't get it out of my head yet.
All right. So you've already said that you wanted, them to win. So this next question I have, if there was any part of them, thinking, okay, it's okay if they lose because we'll get a better draft position. Did any of that change in your head? Like when they started to come back, where you're like, okay, well, at least we'll get the better draft position. Were you rationalizing it? Or were you like, getting upset that they were, the Bears were mounting yet another comeback in the year?
Yeah, I was angry. Angry. They scored and they got the 2-point conversion. I was like, here we effing go again. This was not like, I'm sure the same way we've already talked about this, but this is not a situation where it's like in the middle of the game, I can try to rationalize or be like, well, it's going to be okay. No, I'm irritated. Like, why? Why are we doing this again? We were moving the ball pretty well. Then we get here in the, this is the second half again, which is wasn't the third quarter this time. And we didn't put any points, or we got a field goal in the third quarter, right?
Yeah.
But we're up 16-0. We're basically we're running this game on them in the whole until the fourth quarter starts. Then they've got that. It was like the deep touchdown pass. I don't remember if that was Avonte Maddox. It was just blown coverage. We messed up. They scored the deep touchdown. Well, then they get the 2-point. Then I think we went 3 and out. It was a quick drive. Then they drive down there, and again they score. And then it really quickly went from 16-0. Now we're tied at 16.
Yep.
Then we have the interception. And then when the interception happened, I was like, now Caleb is going to come back on this drive. He's going to break that record. He's going to get the 4,000 yards, and they're going to score a touchdown and beat us. That's what I thought in my head on that last thing.
Yeah. So I can't remember exactly when this happened, but, it was the 3rd and 1, and we, they do that play where Monty's going to throw to Goff. I was so upset. I was like, we're dominating the run game. Because we had the time possession was way in our favor. Like, why are we getting cute? Just run Monty twice and you got this. There's no way he's not getting this first down.
That's been a huge story most of the season, right? Why did we not utilize David Montgomery as much as we should have? That's so painful to look back on all these situations and all these times week after week. And, you hear them say, oh, we've got to get him more involved. We got to figure out ways to get him the ball. You don't have to figure out ways to get him the ball. You've got these situations and you've got the players. It's not that hard to give him the ball in these situations. That's so frustrating. And that's where, we're going to talk about the offensive coordinator and the play calling thing or whatever. But that's just where I think that if he's not the one, if Dan's not in charge of calling the plays, if he's got more of an oversight, and that's not to say he has nothing to do with the play calling. I still think he was involved when Ben was here. Obviously, they still had a game plan. They still made those sorts of decisions together, but it just didn't work to have him calling the plays like that. I don't want that to be with the next coordinator. I want to call the plays. I don't want Dan to have to call the plays anymore.
Yep, I agree. I'm with you on that. And we'll get to that OC conversation. Yeah, I was, when they started to come back, Jacob, in my head, I was like, if we're going to lose this game, I would rather just got blown out right from the beginning, because I got even more invested in the game. And I was like, if they come back and win in the same fashion they've won so many games, and Caleb gets that 4,000 yards, I am going to be so upset the way the season ended. I'm going to, that's going to be just in my mind for a good 8 months. That's all I'm going to be thinking about is like this, and listening to Bears fans and all that stuff. Like it would have just really, really upset me the whole off season. So that my feelings got even more competitive during the game, because I was like, we cannot let them, and then when we screwed that possession up and then they got it, there was the intentional grounding on Goff, that screwed that drive up. And that should have been intentional grounding. I get it. That's the rule. But first of all, Caleb should have got one when that ball was snapped over his head and he threw it like 20 yards past anybody. That
Right.
should have been way down at the 1 yard line, which was stupid. But then what really makes me upset is when Caleb got the intentional grounding, there was no one even close. Like when they showed the screen, it was like there was no Bears offensive players anywhere, and they had to huddle and talk about it. No, I was yelling at the screen. I was like, "This is what conversation could you possibly have happen right now?"
How many times has that happened to us where they have to huddle on these plays that are 100% black and white, this is what it is, 100%.
Yeah,
I thought they were going to pick it up. That just keeps happening to us.
Yes. One of our listeners, WMW2, he's got 2 comments here, Jacob. His first one was, he goes, I wasn't upset with the players playing as long as it wasn't going to hurt them more long term. And I get it. And that's the Penei Sewell situation that you were talking about. Just why risk further injuring there. His second comment was, yeah, I was worried once the Bears figured out the defense. The second half, some of the games just got ugly for the Lions. And I agree with that the games did get ugly for Lions, but this was also the Bears MO to look like crap for a while, and then all of a sudden, they figure it out for whatever reason. They just, whether it gets to a situation where they're just going to chuck it up there and something's magical's going to happen, and that's what's happened to them, or various other things that have happened. But yeah, I was getting worried that when they scored on back-to-back possessions that, they had figured it out and we weren't, we were going to end up losing that. But luckily, Lions end up winning that. I do have another question for you. So at the start of the fourth quarter, Lacey was called for a neutral zone infraction right at the start of the fourth quarter. Do you know what happened there? Because I went back and watched that play, and it did, the offense wasn't even fully lined up there. I mean, the camera shot's late going in there. So do you know what happened on that play? Have you read anything? Did you see anything?
And I saw people talking about it online, but they didn't. I don't think they explained it on the broadcast, right? It didn't even really there was no. Yeah, it was just kind of that thing just happened. Did you read into it at all? I don't.
The only thing that could have happened is before the camera got there, that Lacey went over and touched the. He would have had to touch an offside. Either he had to touch someone, or he would have went in the neutral zone and caused an offensive player to react, but they weren't even set. So I don't even know how that was possible.
Yeah, I think the neutral zone infraction is usually only called when they jump, right? When you come across the line and the offensive line jumps.
Yeah, because
the
otherwise
neutral zone infraction
offside,
is
right? It's offsides if you touch the player. So what the only possible thing could have happened is they were lined up. Lacey jumps over into the neutral zone. He has to be in the neutral zone, causes the offensive player to have a movement while he's in the neutral zone. If he jumps back and then the movement happens, it should be on the offense. But I have no, like, they didn't even look like the offense was set. So I don't know how that's even possible.
Add that to the long list of things that have not went our way with the referees.
Well, that and the fact that Fox's broadcast sucks. They did that with the Washington game where they, they hardly even mention a penalty. Sometimes you'd only hear a penalty. I remember that Washington game, you hear the penalty like because Brady and whoever's talking and you hear it in the background. And then they hardly even mention it. It's
right. Like you hear the announcer say it to the crowd or whatever, and that's how you hear
right.
like that.
Right. Yeah, it's ridiculous. So Fox needs to get their crap together.
That's become way too much about the broadcasters and about their little dialogue and stuff in between, and less about what's going on with the actual game. You already know my gripe with these broadcasters. Speaking of which, just real quick, because I thought about it to go off topic, but did you see Jason Benetti is like the favorite for like the NBC play-by-play?
Yeah. Yep.
I don't like that.
Well, I'm hoping that it's just like his Fox gig where it's just like one day a week and he still stays on with the Tigers.
Yeah.
Good for him. I mean, he deserves it. He's awesome. But
100%. Like, absolutely deserves it. But yeah, I just don't want to lose him for the Tigers.
I agree. So,
all right.
Let's move off this Lions-Bears game. Talked long enough on it. Quickly, a lot of talk about Jared Goff. I'm wondering about how this is going to go in the offseason with you and I, because I think I'm a little more on Goff than you are. But is Goff the answer? Let's say if I had a magic wand right now and there was no cap ramifications, would you move on from Goff, or is he the quarterback that you'd want to have him guide this team next year?
That's a tough question. I don't want to say that it's Jared Goff's fault. I don't think that he has any fault with what's going on. I mean, Jared Goff is like, I know you said take the salary out, but I mean, he's like 7th in salary, but yet he's like top 3 in almost every statistic that you can find. He's done a great job with the offense. He's a great quarterback. My gripe with Jared Goff has always been, I just wish that he would work a little bit in the offseason on his mobility. I just want him to be able to make, like, almost every other quarterback in the league has, to some certain extent, when they get under pressure, when a play breaks down, they can move their feet, they can extend the plays, or they can get, 5, 6, 7 yards on just a quick scramble. And Goff just generally does not get to do that. Although I don't remember if this is the Bears game or Vikings game where he kind of like ran out under pressure right away and he rolled out, made a throw on the run that was really nice. But anyway, in my opinion, like if I could have any quarterback, then I would want a more mobile quarterback, obviously. But I don't think that Jared Goff's the problem. And I'm okay with keeping Goff as the quarterback for the next, 3 or 4 years or so. I don't think that that's the problem. I think that the problem, well, maybe to some people that's the problem, but I think the bigger issue is the cap hit that he's about to have and the fact that we're going to have to create cap room. We're going to have to restructure some of this, and that's going to tie you to Jared Goff, a little bit longer, right? I think that's the discussion, or that's the question.
Yep.
Where are you at, though?
Well, 100%. I want him to be my quarterback. Like, I think we're going to get way worse at quarterback position than if we moved on from him, like even if we had the magic wand when there was no money attached. But you're right. We are tied to him, like especially after they redo the cap this year. After they redo that, they restructure him, because they're going to have to restructure him to give us any sort of money to do anything in free agency or, re-sign the guys that we want to re-sign. I'm with you that I would like Goff to be able. I think his mobility in the pocket's actually has shown to be pretty good this year. I think you've seen, like, even when he's under pressure, he's been able to move around enough to, make a play happen. What I don't like is when he starts, he can't throw on the run. Like, he has to be set. Like, he has that thing where he can move around in the pocket and shift around and then still hit guys. But that's why that throw you're talking about, and I do think it might have been versus the Vikings, where he was running and made a really accurate throw on the run. It's the reason why it's noteworthy is because he doesn't do it very often. And it was shocking to both of us that it happened. And that's why it sticks in our memory.
Oh, he's dead meat.
Yeah. So, like, our commenter here says the golf spin move makes me cringe. And that's the problem is if he ever turns his back to the field, then I know he's done. Like it's the moment when he can move or shift and he's always if he can move up in the pocket or move right and left, he's good. But if he ever has to get out, move out, I know that he's done for because number one, he's not quick enough to move out of the pocket. He's not strong enough to break tackles.
Right.
And even then if he's going to be on the run, it's most likely be an inaccurate throw. You can you could 100% win with golf, and golf could win us the Super Bowl, and probably should in that San Francisco year. Like we could have made it and been fine. And you're gonna hear people that talk about, oh, he needs a running game, he needs everything to be perfect. I think this is the answer of this year. Nothing was perfect. The offensive line was not great. The running game, not great. And Goff had one of his better years. I mean, he had a fine year for being a quarterback. Like you said, he's top statistical category in a lot of things. The interceptions were looking great until that Vikings game. It was looking really good. I mean, I know he had a bad one in the Bears game, but also I think that Goff was like at this point in the game and in this point in the season, F it, I'm throwing it in there. It was kind of almost like a Calvin Johnson,
Yeah, right,
Matthew
right.
Stafford moment where like, F it, Amon Ra's down there anywhere. I'm going to throw it down there, even though it was a dumb throw. And Tesla was wide open underneath and could, put it
Yeah,
just
it
in
makes it more
field goal
painful
position.
after the
Yeah,
fact, but yeah.
right. And so, yeah, I think I'm happy with Goff. I know he's going to be back next year, and I'm okay with it. I think the people that have Goff hate see a player like Lamar, see a player like Josh Allen, and think, well, we gotta, if we had a player like that, then we'd be even more dominant. And I don't know. I've seen Lamar play enough, especially like he's playing injured. Lamar runs into so many sacks. Like he tries to do too much. Josh Allen's the guy, but there's only one Josh Allen. Like he's the guy that can create stuff and then he's still looking downfield and still can make passes. He he's amazing. But those guys are few and far between. And you think you're gonna just draft a mobile guy? Well, you might end up with Justin Fields, a guy that he can move around, but he can't throw it. And or you get like Caleb Williams. Like, I mean, that guy can certainly throw a better Justin Fields, but he still makes, in my opinion, bad decisions with the ball. He doesn't hold on to it nearly as long as he did his rookie year. Maybe he'll get better next year. Maybe Ben Johnson will help him with that. But Goff, I know if a play breaks down, he's going to get rid of it. He's going to avoid taking the sack if he can, and he's going to live to play another down. And I think having that competence at quarterback and him getting you in the right play is he does way more good than he probably gets credit for. I know everybody wants the mobility thing and sticks out like a sore thumb with our quarterback. However, he's incredibly accurate, and I just think he's perfect for this team. So I know that we're gonna be stuck with him. I said that in quotation marks, but I'm ready to roll with him.
I don't think that I mean, you could look at any of the games we lost this year. I don't think there's any game where you could be like, "Man, if we had a better quarterback, we would have been okay."
Hmm.
That's not what happened. I mean, every single time it was like the offensive line broke down, the play calling broke down. We were not utilizing our players the way that we should have. There's a million reasons why you could say, but I don't think you could say that it was Goff's fault for any of them.
Yep, I agree. I mean, at certain plays with a mobile quarterback been able to get out and make plays, yes. But then there's other plays where Goff is making throws that are incredibly accurate or timing throws that maybe other quarterbacks wouldn't be able to do that he's just not getting credit for, either in PFF grades or, you know, everyone everyone is stuck, not say everyone, but a lot of people still have the Rams Goff image in their head, and he was discarded, and he's that same quarterback, and he's not even the Vikings guys that we talked to earlier this year. Ironically, that's Goff's been his toughest 2 games this year has probably been against the Vikings, uh, so they're going to still have that perception. However, Goff usually gets us to the right place. There's been a lot of drop passes this year, more than I've seen probably the other 3 years combined. It just seemed like and especially in key situations where people, Goff put it in there and it was drops. And, if he'd have had those, that's a few hundred more yards, probably another couple touchdown passes, stuff like that. Uh, and if we win the division, then Goff's looked at a different light and people are really happy. But because we didn't, everyone's looking for excuses and some people want to latch on to Goff.
Right. Well, if Brian Flores leaves Minnesota, I don't think we'll have to worry about that.
I know. And I like Shep, but man, Brian Flores on our sidelines makes me very, very happy if that were to happen. Because
That
get
would
him
be
off the
insane.
Vikings. You
Right.
get him off the Vikings and he would come over here. That I don't think it's going to happen, but it's a pipe dream. All right, let's talk about the offensive coordinator. Johnny Morton fired today. First of all, overall, I think that I think I expected this. I'm sure I don't know if you expected it, but what were you more surprised that it actually happened or the timing that it was like today?
That was the part, because it didn't happen yesterday. Then I kind of thought, like, okay, I wonder what's going on here. Are we waiting to see who's available? Are we gonna like maybe keep him and just interview, or like I don't, not sure how exactly that works. But the timing of it was weird, but I absolutely expected it to happen. Honestly, like even earlier on in the season, once Dan Campbell took over play calling duties, once the offense started to roll like instantly after that, I was like, okay, it just really looks like maybe we just didn't make the right decision. But it was also kind
Mhm.
of telling, like for me anyway, that like how many times did you really even hear them bring up Johnny Morton after that happened? I mean, it was almost like he could have left the building and you wouldn't really have known the difference. I mean, it just obviously he was still there. He's still part of the play, or not the play calling, still a part of planning, game planning, and everything like that. Dan Campbell still mentioned like that he was valuable and he's helping him out. And I think his exact quote, though, I don't have it in front of me, but his exact quote that Dan Campbell said is like, sometimes he tells me his insights and everything. Sometimes I listen, sometimes I don't. It was something like
Mhm.
that, where he was like,
Yeah.
sometimes I take it, sometimes I don't. But yeah,
Yeah.
I really thought that for sure we were going to be moving on from him.
Yep. I if anything, I thought he was going to get reassigned to another role, like, within the offense, just
Right,
have
right.
if he was going to want to stick with the team, the offensive coordinator title was going to be, taken from him. Because I really get the feeling that Dan Campbell does not want to call plays next year. Like he wants
Right.
to have that off his plate. And I want you already talked about it earlier, but I want that too.
Yes.
I mean, he could be involved with it and say, I think he should be involved with the game planning of the offense. Like, cause I think he has a really good feel for the game as a whole and how the offense and like what you need to do to win and like all that thing. I think he has a really good feel for that. What I want him to do is be able to feel that without the pressure of having to call a play. Like have that off and be like, all right, him be able to watch that and say, I need to run here, whatever, like to the outside, whatever he wants to do. Like, I just don't want him to have to be focused on which play because I just think that that's just too much on his plate. And I just don't want, I want him to be able to focus on the whole game as opposed to that.
Absolutely. I think that affected the defense. I think that Campbell having to put so much time in with the offense, this play calling, obviously like fully focus on the game planning. I think that maybe he was not able to, you know, to be as involved in these defensive, position meetings, or, just the overall scheme and everything like that. And that's something that obviously Kelvin Shepard, this was his first year as a coordinator. And I
Hmm.
mean, he's been around for a while, like, he's been coaching and everything like that, and he was up to the task. I just feel like it would have benefited us and maybe things would have shaken out a little bit differently had Dan Campbell been able to spend a little bit more time over there.
I agree. And just like, yeah, have put the ideas in the room, like, and
Right.
say, hey, this is what we need to be looking
These are
at.
the things I'm seeing scheme wise. This is what I want to change, or this is, conversations that I'm positive he still had. It's just different when you don't have as much time. You only have so many hours in a day, right? And
Yep.
I just don't think that he was able to do, what Dan Campbell does. I don't think he was able to optimize his time like that.
Hmm. I agree. I agree. All right. So before we get into possible coordinator replacements, I want to ask you, do you want someone with play calling experience? Do you value that like above, like, what's your number one thing that you're looking for in an offensive coordinator that's going to come here?
It's tough because I do think that we've got to get this one right, right? They messed up last year. We've got to get this one right. I think we can all, obviously, the 1 year thing, John Morton was not the right hire. Rub salt in the wound of losing Ben Johnson, that, the person that we got who had been in the building before, it just didn't work out. And unfortunately for John Morton, I mean, the first time he did that was a disaster with the Jets, right? He gets another shot, and now, even though the offense finished, top 5, it just didn't work out for him. I'm not sure how many more opportunities he's going to, walk into to be the offensive coordinator, but you just have to get it right. And my thing is, if it's going to be somebody that's been in the building, without naming names just yet or whatever, if it's going to be somebody that's in the building with the play calling experience for the first time, I think I would be okay with that. I would rather it be somebody, if we're going with an outside hire, I would rather hire somebody that's got play calling experience. It's just, obviously, we always talk about this window and the window being open and everything like that. But the reality is, eventually, the window doesn't stay open forever. And each year that goes by, that especially, as these years went, we finished a little bit worse every year. We have to get healthy. We have to reload. And I mean, obviously, I still think we should be towards the top of the Super Bowl favorites for next year. We just have to make sure we're doing these right things. So I think play calling experience, if you're going with the outside, I would be very disappointed if we did the same kind of thing and got somebody, even if they've been in the building before, but somebody outside of the building, that's just not, it doesn't fit what we're doing, I guess, and does not have play calling experience. Do you feel the same way? Is that important for you, or do you differ?
It's my number one thing. And I don't think I just want to get this clear. Just because you get someone with play calling experience doesn't mean there's not going to be any bumps in the road. I just think there's going to be less bumps in the road, and it's going to be easier to predict success if you have someone with some experience, especially that, showing some experience in the NFL. I'd rather have that. I'd rather have that experience. John Morton didn't have a great, experience the first time you said with the Jets, and it just turned out he didn't do good. So I don't know if that's bad taste in my mouth, but I don't want any reason for Dan Campbell to just pull that play calling away from someone. They were like, okay, this isn't working after 4 weeks, and he's not going to let it go half a season again, and then all of a sudden, to have to turn it on. I want someone with experience in there. So I'm going to give you 3 names, Jacob. I'm going to give you 3 names. Tell me first I wanted to know.
I've got a list too, so let's.
You got a list? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to give you 3 names. And then I want you to tell me if you, number one, just tell me if you think it's going to be one of the 3 or the field, someone outside that. So my 3 that I think are the headliners are Ted Monken, Baltimore, especially with Harbaugh being fired, Brian Daboll, former Giants coach, and then Kevin Stefanski, who's just fired by the Browns. If I gave you those 3, do you think it would be one of those 3 or the field, as of right now, if you're judging the field?
One of those 3 is on the list that I have. So I guess if we're saying those 3 are the field, I would pick the field.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
With that being said,
I want to hear your list.
I was going to say, with that being said, the one that's on my list is Daboll. And I think Daboll and Dan Campbell's relationship, Daboll having head coach and play calling experience, that one kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
There's also, obviously, there's several head coaching positions out there that maybe Daboll is going to be interviewing for or trying to get. I don't know that he's going to get one again right away, but that's somebody that I think fits the bill and I think would do okay. The other ones I have on here, Cliff Kingsbury is somebody that also has head coach and play calling experience. Yep. I think that both of those guys, I think I would be okay with either of those guys, with what they have coming in. The other one that I've seen thrown around there, Tommy Rees, the Browns offensive coordinator, he, did play calling a little bit this year. He's still younger. I am not as high on him. But then some other names like semi in-house, I guess, Scotty Montgomery, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's been around. He's kind of on the level of Shep. He's been on the cusp of a coordinator job for a while, assistant head coach. But the only thing about that is, can we afford a season of growing pains, with him play calling and everything like that? Can we afford for this to be up and down? And, the answer is no. So you've got to either, these other ones need to fall through, or you've just got to be so 100% sure about Scotty. And I just don't think that that's going to happen this year. The other in-house, David Shaw, obviously extensive experience, calling plays and just coaching in general, but just something about that also just seems like almost too vanilla, or that there's just not, there's no fire there. So that's why the other name that I have on my list is Antoine Randall L, who left, for Chicago. I like him. I think he's a good coach, but he's also never called plays before either.
Yeah.
So that's why if I'm looking at the list, I think that Dable and Kingsbury are at the top of my list right now. I don't care for Monken from Baltimore. Do you?
You don't?
I see that a lot. People are excited about that. I don't care for him.
Take it. I'd be happy. Like, he's one of those guys that he's done it for such a long time with so many different personnel that I think that he could come in and do what we need him to do, and I'd be comfortable with. The thing is that, like, he feels like a safer choice. Like, Dayball's probably my number one, I would say, out of everybody. Monken probably up there too. Those are my two. If we hire those, I'm going in the season feeling okay. I feel pretty confident that we've made a decision. We go with like Scotty or like Antoine Randall. Those two scare me. I love Scotty. I love hearing him talk, but I think you've said it right. Like, are we going to go through a year of growing pains with someone, that he hasn't called plays, and who knows? He could go. I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm just saying I would go into this season with a lot of trepidation, being like, oh my God, are we going to do this again? I'd be very, very concerned about that. Whereas if Dayball comes in or Monken comes in or even Stefanski, I feel like, okay, we're going to have a competent offense. I feel confident with it. I also feel like Dan Campbell won't be stripping them from play call duties. And, all those guys, like obviously Dayball, Stefanski are head coaches. They're nice to have on. Those guys are smart, and they can also help with other areas too. And you can take on a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, I think Dable was the number one for me. That's why when you said, like, these three are their fields, like, well, I guess playing the odds here, but Dable would be huge get. I mean, obviously he struggled, with the Giants, but he had his work cut out for him as well. And that's another reason why I mentioned the window and everything like that, is because this is a top 5 offense. I mean, there's no rebuilding necessarily that you have to do. We definitely have to address the offensive line, and that may look way different next year than it did this year. But the core pieces and your skill players and everything are going to be the same. And you already know what you have. Like, it's just, I think we said this with Morton too. It's almost like, you've got a head start. Just don't mess this up.
Yep.
And then somehow he messed it up, right? He just didn't do enough.
Yeah. I also think that, I mean, in fairness with Morton, is the offensive line was really not where it needed to be. Now, you could also make the argument that a good offensive coordinator, it works with that, and then, makes the run game work because we either call more zone runs or whatever. We work to our strengths. Where is it just, even when Dan Campbell's calling the plays, our run game, and that could be Hank Fraley's problem too. He's the run game coordinator, right? He's supposed to be setting that up, and he's not. Shouldn't be. I mean, I have confidence that he's good, and I like Hank Fraley, but I mean, if you're the run game coordinator and the run game's not working, then there's issues going on there. So either there's, you're not calling the right plays, or you're just not setting up, the blocks aren't setting up, or your linemen aren't developing the way that you wanted. Now, there's a lot of injuries on that line. Losing Frank obviously hurt worse than what we hoped it would hurt. We didn't think the play would be that far dropped off, but it was.
Yeah, our worst fears were realized that it was as bad as it sounded. It was as bad as it was going to get.
Right.
But I mean, I do think maybe it was Hank, maybe it was Morton or whatever. But I mean, in those games where he called the plays, we were, what was it, 5-3 in the games that Morton called plays. But I mean, we had the game against the Packers, like nothing was going right. The play calling and everything on there was that was the one where everybody kind of, hit the panic button right away because it just didn't look right. And then we bounced back and had some good games. And then again, we got out coached against the Chiefs. We got out coached against the Vikings. And that's when Dan Campbell took over. And the offense looks a lot better, but that's when the defense, I can't say that's when the defensive struggle started, but that is like the downturn of when it happened. That coincided with the injuries for, Kirby, obviously Branch and everything that was happening. But I mean, we went 4-5 in games that Dan Campbell called plays.
Yep. Yeah, none of those games would I say, oh, the offense is the reason why we lost that game. Now the Vikings game, I guess on Christmas Day, I mean that was I don't know if that was necessarily play calling, but that was just turnovers. You can't win the game turning the ball over 6 times. I mean that was
I mean, their
again we're
defense was just putting it on us, and that's like
yes
another one where it was like, man, Goff's just not seeing where this pressure is coming from. They're bringing pressure relentlessly, and we have no answer for it.
right. Yep. No, and Campbell shouldn't be absolved of like, you know, that there we didn't have options. We didn't plan that out very well. But I
Well,
will
we
say
had
that we should have
Kingsley.
won.
That was when we had Kingsley had a couple of bad snaps that game, and we started Skipper because Decker was out.
Yeah. Oh, if you don't think that affected the game, then you're crazy. Because yeah, and then
Right.
Kingsley they didn't keep on the team. He went over to Cleveland now, and was their starting center for the last game. I don't blame him for leaving because I think the Lions were honest with him. Like, we'd like to keep you, but we're not guaranteeing you a starting spot. And Cleveland guaranteed him a starting spot.
Exactly.
Let me there's the thought of, Dayball. So Dayball comes in and it's likely that he could, especially if the Lions offense is really good, right? It's likely that he might get another shot as a head coach. So does the fact that any of those guys like Dayball or Stefanski or any other head coach, like even Kingsbury, he might get another shot at being a head coach. Like having them be one and done, does that go into your thought process at all, or do you want someone that can grow in the position?
No. With the team that we have right now, I think we're built to win now. We need somebody that's going to help us this season. It's going to help us win now. And I think if they do go one and done, chances are, if they do go one and done because they're getting head coaching opportunity, then we probably did pretty well, right? Or at least the offense is going to have done pretty well. It's not going to be this feeling where, hey, we went one and done, but it was because of the wrong reasons, right?
Yep.
And I think that also coincides with just like the whole we want somebody with experience, and that's going to happen with somebody with experience.
Yep. I'm with you. My one and done does that. Dayball, if he comes and then leaves, you're right. You're happy because that means he had a really good year, and we'll figure it out the following year because I like next year's critical. We need to have a really good season next year, in my opinion. All right.
Well, schedule's going to be in our favor. Healthy
Yes.
team, hopefully. So
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many things to talk about. We'll save some of that for later on, but yes, us finishing in fourth place really, getting the Bears treatment with the schedule this year,
yeah.
for next season. So, real quick before we move on to the last thing that we're going to talk about is so they fired out Johnny. Does this mean in your mind that we're keeping Shep as our defensive coordinator because we didn't make that move today, or do you think that still could come this week?
I don't really care about Morton as much because we kind of expected that, but I would be surprised if we moved on from one. I would be surprised if we moved on from Shep, and then two, I think I would feel really bad for Shep. That his shot was just relegated to this one season, losing Branch and Kirby, having a really, really difficult year. But I mean, I would feel really bad. I think the only way that we move on from Shep is if there's some sort of Brian Flores available or some sort of, I mean, it would have to be somebody available or something's coming up where we really think we can make an improvement on the defense. I think I would be very surprised, which I mean, I don't know if it means anything that it happened, today versus maybe they went through the offense today. They're going defense tomorrow. Who knows exactly how this is going to go? I guess you can't really say he's out of the woods yet until they 100% announce that he's returning.
Mm-hmm.
At this point in time, though, I would be surprised if we moved on from Shep. How do you feel, though?
Yeah, I don't think we're moving on from Shep, and I'm okay with that, to be honest with you. It really hit the fan when Branch went out. It really hit the fan. I mean, it wasn't going great before that, but when Branch went out, you saw the run game defense really went down, and you noticed how much he meant to that. So I think we're gonna get some. I I wouldn't be surprised if we got like a senior advisor or like actually that's what our listener just said, get some help with a senior advisor. I wouldn't be surprised if we got someone with some experience just another sounding board for Shep and just to kind of maybe take some of the responsibilities off his plate just to help him out. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see who's out there. I mean, when Aaron Glenn was here, we'd have like John Fox in there. We had Don Capers for a year. So I mean, Aaron Glenn had some senior help in there, and Shep didn't have any of that. So it wouldn't surprise me if they brought in some help that way.
Right. Agreed.
Yep. All right. Quickly, there's not much I really want to talk about with these futures contracts, but I just wanted to see if there's any names on here that you're planning on making some progress next year. Or you're happy they're on their team. So for exclusive right free agent signings, we got Jacob Saylor's back, Michael Neese, Nick Whiteside. Those guys were on the active roster, but because they didn't have as many years of service, they're exclusive rights free agents. So when we sign them, it basically just guarantees them a spot on the 90-man roster for next year, and then they get a, guaranteed amount of salary coming in. So that's, and it's basically either they sign with us or they sit out the year. So obviously they're not going to give up that money. For future signings, Jabari Small, Jackson Meeks, Malik Cunningham, Zach Horton, Devin Cochran, Mason Miller, uh, Ahmed Hassanin, Chris Smith, Lawrence Strickland. And then I don't know if you saw this or not, but we signed Seth McLaughlin. He's a center. Jacob, I don't know if you saw this. He was the nation's voted in college, the best center in 2024, tore his Achilles, has been on the practice squad for the Bengals all year, signed with us this year. So, he's a year removed from the Achilles, was on Ohio State, was for his 2024 season voted the best center in college football. So I was kind of excited about that signing a little bit. There's some potential there.
Right. Potential, right? Especially if you're talking about a
Yes.
center. What a huge get that would be if we could sneak a great center on the team, especially if
Yes.
Frank doesn't come back.
Yep. Is there any player that you're excited about next year, going into next year, the growth that they make? I mean, I think the obvious answer is Hassanin.
Exactly.
I think we're all excited
That's the
about
big
that.
one that you're looking at, Hassanin.
Yep.
Pretty much all of these, with the exception of McLaughlin, are the guys on the practice squad, right?
Mhm.
Maybe bigger is like the people that were on the practice squad that we did not re-sign, which are like some people that we, like Pat O'Connor. That's the one that comes to mind. Pat O'Connor, Miles Adams, like some of those guys, did not get signed to these futures contracts. But
Yep.
I think, if you're looking at those, Malik Cunningham, Jackson Meeks, training camp, maybe they take another step. We see what they have, but I don't want to say there's anybody that I'm too overly excited here.
Yeah. Now Hassanin there and Meeks are the two guys that have potential. Nick Whiteside on the restricted free agent side, I like him. He showed some flashes, and who knows, with the playing time he got this year, maybe he makes a jump next year. And it would be nice to have some nice cornerback depth for sure.
It'd be fantastic if somebody makes a jump.
Yeah. The name that we didn't say that is going to be a free agent that could have signed one of these contracts is Jake Bates. So my feeling is that they're signing up. They're going to sign him to a multi-year contract. Or are you ready to move on from Jake Bates?
I was just going to ask, would you be okay with that?
I'm okay with it. I think I'm okay with it. I think you could do worse than Jake Bates. I don't think he's perfect by any means, but I'm okay with it. What about you?
I would say I'm okay with it. I mean, how many teams do you see have these like kicker struggles and they're like signing a new kicker like every couple weeks, and then before you know it, they've had like 7 kickers throughout the course of the season? And I don't want to get into that. I like the continuity, like just having Bates back there. Obviously, he wasn't perfect this year. Had some misses on some kicks that should have been made. Had some blocks. Still some things to clean up, but
Yep.
I don't think that Jake Bates is going to cost you enough money where it's going to affect the salary cap or anything like that. So,
And he's also
I would
got
say
some
that
years
would be
for growth, right?
Right, exactly. I would say that I would be a little concerned, like if we had not, like if we said we were moving on from him. I don't want that, whole training camp talk and to have 2 or 3 kickers, and like I just said, the revolving door of like bringing people in and out, and it's like anyone that misses 2 kicks all of a sudden is on the street, and you get somebody else in here.
Yep.
Kicker is
I
not a
agree.
position where I want that. I mean, you don't want that to happen in any position, but I just don't want that to be somewhere that's taking up roster spots and there's uncertainty there. Just get Jason Hansen
I
back.
think he's going to be on the team next year. I'd be shocked if he's not on the team, after they're going to sign him a contract. So, all right. I told you at the top that there was a longer story for my trip. I'm going to tell you what happened. So, Christmas Eve night, I start getting body aches and I'm like, "Oh god, I'm getting sick." Christmas morning, I woke up and I could hardly move. I got up, opened gifts with the kids, and I said, "I'm going to bed." So I laid in bed the whole rest of the day. Some of the other family come over, and I just locked myself because I didn't want to get anybody sick. So I laid there. We were supposed to go to Universal Studios as a family, driving down starting Friday to get there Saturday to go to a park on Sunday. We started to get like it's Christmas Day, we're scrambling, we're like, what are we going to do? First of all, am I going to feel well enough to go enjoy myself at Universal? Second of all, do I want to be in the car with everybody for 15 hours when I'm sick, and then I could get everybody else sick, and then we've ruined the whole vacation. So what we decided to do was me buy a one-way ticket down to Florida, and I would fly out Saturday. And the flight was from Frontier. I flew out from Detroit to Orlando. Supposed to leave at 5:49. I signed up for an Uber, got a driver. The driver canceled last minute. And so then I had to drive myself up to the airport. So that's like an hour drive, which not a big deal. The problem is I had to leave my car up there for like a week and pay for parking, whereas the Uber driver would have been cheaper and I wouldn't have had to leave my car at the thing. But since the person canceled last minute, I had to drive up there. So that was the first thing. My flight got delayed 4 times. I did not get to my hotel room luckily I got I'm thankful that the plane did leave eventually and I got down there. Flight was fine, but I did not by the time I got the Uber from Orlando, got to Universal Studios, I did not get into my bed until 1 in the morning. And the rest of the family was getting up at 7 to get to the park the next day. So I slept an extra couple hours. So I think I woke up around 9, and then I met my rest of my family there. And that was the first time my boys had seen me, like since Christmas. Like they hadn't seen me, and my wife saw me because she got up and got me in the hotel room and stuff like that. But boys were sleeping when I got there, and I was sleeping when they got up. So like the first thing they do, they both give me just huge hugs. And so that made me feel really good. Like right away, like they're happy to see me. Did go to the park, did really well. I was actually I think I told you I was coughing and stuff, but it wasn't like overtly like where people were, like I was gonna get everybody sick. No one
Yeah,
else in
right.
my party got sick the whole rest of the time. I was there with my sister, my brother-in-law, and their 2 kids. No one got sick, and no one's got sick since. So I think it was very
It was a
quick.
success that you were able to
Yeah,
keep it
yeah.
to yourself.
So I will tell you, Universal Studios is above Disneyland for me as far as like having fun. I had way more fun at those parks. It's much easier to get around at Universal Studios. The app and everything at Disney is a pain in the butt, and it was very easy. Just scan a badge. I don't know if it was like this when you were there, but they take a scan of your face, Jacob. So when you go to the express line, like the camera sees you and just lets you through. Now, if it doesn't recognize you, you could still scan a badge to get through. But they're using like facial recognition stuff to get you through the rides. It's pretty crazy.
That's high tech. No. Well,
Yeah.
when we were there, they have like the line for single riders. Like,
Yeah.
if one of us wanted to go on that. Other than that, we were waiting. But, we had the app thing too, where it was like, okay, yeah, there's only a 15-minute wait for this ride. And you also went at the busiest time. Like,
Yeah.
I think it was like
Yep.
record breaking.
It was crazy. I mean, we had the express pass for everything. Like some of the rides were like without the express pass we're like we're hitting above 4 hours. Like the
Insanity.
Hagrid's ride at Island Adventure
That's always
was, I mean, my boys said hands down that they loved that ride. It was my sister's favorite ride. My wife loved the ride. I didn't actually end up doing that one. But the boys really liked that one. They liked the Jurassic Park ride. The Velocicoaster was their favorite ride. They think I
Yeah, I
think
don't
it
do
might
that
be
one.
better than anything at Cedar Point too. I don't do those type of rides, so I didn't ride that. However, I will tell you All the rides at Universal, I did. I think I did the whole park. The only one I didn't do was the Fast and Furious ride because it was closed when we went.
Yeah.
By the time we got over there, I think it's only open certain hours of the day. But I did every ride in that park, and the Harry Potter one was a lot of fun. And yeah, I like the Transformers ride. I don't know if you did that one. That's like a 4D ride. That thing was so cool.
I
Oh,
don't
it was
think we did the
awesome.
Transformers one, but there are a couple different like 4D or 3, like where they move around and
Yeah.
stuff. Like they had a Spider-Man ride there.
The Spider-Man
then
one was a lot of fun too. I
Right.
like that one a
That
lot.
was one of the ones where it was cool walking in line. That and the Harry
Yeah.
Potter ones are cool walking in line and seeing like the different things that they have set up. Universal just
Yeah.
does a really good job with that.
You did. So I know you didn't go to Epic when you went, but Epic was like, oh my God. I think I sent you a few of the pictures, like
Yeah.
just going down.
Unbelievable.
It was just like so immersive in there. The boys got, while they're there, they got crepes. They got the butterbeer crepes. So I
Okay.
don't know. And
Crepes.
so it's like, have you ever had a crepe before?
No. I know what those are, but I've
It,
never had.
they're essentially like pancakes. I mean, they're
It's
kind of
like a
like
really
rolled up
thin,
pancakes.
like yeah.
But yeah, but the boys, they loved it. They said that was a favorite thing they ate the whole time. Well, there was, and I
Did you read
think
the Harry
I
Potter
got like
books? I don't remember if we
I
talked about
didn't
this. You
read them.
read
The boys did.
Did Preston say the ministry looked like it would in the book? Did he talk about that?
No, he did not.
It definitely, like the pictures and stuff I seen, it makes it look like how they made it look in the movie, which is pretty close.
Yeah.
But it's just, did you walk through like the green flames to get there? Like
Yes.
yeah,
Yep.
right. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. It's a nice
We took
touch.
pictures in the green flames too.
Yeah.
Like as it's coming up, it was really cool. Like the it's so immersive in there. A lot of and I will tell you also the Mario Land and Epic was crazy cool. Like just
Yeah.
so much to look at. But each of the 3 parks that we went to, because we didn't do the water park, because like a couple of the days were like in the 50s while we were down there,
Right.
which
That's
frankly
comfortable though down there. Like
I was okay with. Like at one point, my brother-in-law and I went back to the hotel room to grab jackets, but I was very comfortable in a jacket, and I'd much rather have it like that than when you went and it's 100 degrees and you're sweating and you're tired after a half an hour, because we never really got tired because of the heat. I mean, and we would duck into if you're in the rides, you're in line for, even with the fast pass, we were in line for a half an hour. So you're inside a building for a half an hour. You warm up during that time, and then you're ready to go. Uh, but it was that each of the worlds had a Harry Potter land, and each of them were very cool. Probably my favorite one was Diagon
yes.
Alley. Like it is really cool back there. And then the boys got the wands, so they were doing the magic tricks.
Did you go in
At
and
the
have them do like the show where like somebody gets picked to like wave the wand or whatever? In the wand
No, we
shop,
did.
they do like a quick, like if you have to wait in line for it, and it's not anything
Okay.
that's like, oh, you missed out, but
Yeah.
they do like a quick little show or whatever inside the thing, and then they pick somebody at random to wave the wand.
Okay. Yeah, we didn't do that. Whereas so in Epic, they have like one. So like they do this in all the parks, but in Epic, you could go up to like at these windows, and you could do, you move your wand a certain way, and a magic
Right,
trick
right.
happens or whatever. But in Diagon Alley, they also have like a place where they talk to you. So they have like one of the mirrors. Like there's like they must have a microphone and someone like where you can't see them talking,
Right,
because it
right.
was like not AI. Like the person asked Preston his name, Preston
Yes.
told him the name, and they were like you could tell that there was a real conversation, not like some sort of computer generated like call and response type thing. And so
Yes.
that was really cool. And then the boys got to do a med trick, and then Bradley got to do it. And it was
That's
really,
awesome.
really neat.
And they
Yeah.
talk to the shrunken head. They've got the night bus. There's a shrunken head in the night bus, and it's the same thing. Like somebody, if you've seen that movie,
Yes.
it's like a Jamaican.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, they
right.
did
But it's the
that.
same thing.
Yep.
Like there's somebody talking to
Yep.
the people.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, that's a great time. We got to make it back.
Yeah.
We already
Yeah.
said next time we go, it's going to have to be like October, November-ish. We're not going to go again in the summer.
Yeah. It was so like the first day, like I joked at the beginning of this, like I want to avoided sunscreen, but at Epic, I never had to put sunscreen on the whole day. Like the sun was out, but there's so much shade, and I was able to like just be comfortable. that I was never in the sun just standing there because all the lines were inside the building. Like we
Yeah.
weren't sitting outside at lines. It's not like Cedar Point where you're just standing outside baking. And that day was like 75. The other 2 days were, in the high 50s. And when you
Which
got there in
still
the
feels
morning, it
comfortable
was
when
really
you
cold.
come from Michigan, but for people in Florida,
Yeah.
that probably feels like 10 degrees.
Yeah. Yeah. It was funny because like I was sitting, we had the Monday, we had an off day and it was still pretty nice, like 75, 80 that day. And the kids were at the pool. And I'm sitting there, and there was another family like a couple chairs over, and the guy we were talking about the weather or something, and the guy chimed in, and he's like, "Yeah," he goes, "We could tell who's from Florida and who's not because this guy was from Buffalo, so he's used to like super cold weather." And
Right.
I was like, "Yeah, the rest of us are going to be sitting in our shorts and t-shirts when it's 55, 60 because we're happy, and everybody else is freezing their butts off."
Awesome. Glad you
Yeah.
got to go. I know you guys were
Yep.
looking forward to that for a while. Glad it went well.
Yes.
No air conditioning breaking or everybody getting sick for you.
Yeah. So, and then we drove all the way home
Did you drive
and
straight home?
we just stayed the night. We stayed the night one night. So we got we contemplated driving. My brother and sister-in-law got up like at 4:30 in the morning and left like really early on Friday. And Sarah and I, we had to wait to rent our car. They rented their car the day before, paid for an extra rental. We just were like, you know what, we'll leave. But by the time we got the rental and everything, it was 9 o'clock. It would have put us in Atlanta at 4:30 on a Friday, which I did not
Nightmare.
want to be driving through Atlanta.
Nightmare.
So we drove the long way around, like went through the mountains. And so it took longer. But since my brother and sister-in-law left early, they made it in like 16 hours. Like they drove straight and they were home. Like they were home by like 8 o'clock that same day, which I was second guessing everything I did. I was like, we should have left really early and just made it, but
I told
it
you
is what it is.
which was
Yeah.
partially because of the air conditioning thing, but it ended up
Yeah.
working out where I was like, if we have to drive down there again, I'm doing the same thing. But I left at like 4 p.m. and I drove straight through the night all the way. Less traffic. Don't have to worry about nothing. Made great timing. My kids were asleep most of the time, so they're not constantly asking for snacks or bathroom breaks. And
Yeah. We yeah. Like, dude, food was so expensive down there too. It was ridiculous. Sarah
right,
and I were share at one of the restaurants the last night we went to the City Walk where all those restaurants, you saw it right down
like
that say all those restaurants.
before you actually go
Yeah,
into one of the parks,
go
like
in, yeah,
yeah,
like
yeah.
where they have all the restaurants. First we went
Did you
to
go
the
to that
Chocolate
chocolate
Emporium.
factory? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and we ate there and the food was amazing there. It was so good. And so then the next night, well, the food was good there, but that the next time we went out to dinner, we went at whatever, a big fire, whatever. Sarah and I split a steak and the boys got their own meal and it was still $150. And
Yeah.
Sarah and I split a meal. Like, because I was like, I'm not going to eat a whole, like, you know, I didn't have, we were leaving the next day. There was no reason to have leftovers. I was like, let's just, we'll split this. And it was still $150.
We did
It
not
is
eat there.
the
We
worst.
got like one of those like cake in a cup. I think like a couple of the kids got like snacks or something.
Okay.
Even that was probably like $50, but
Yeah. So when we went, Chocolate Emporium has those amazing shakes where like they'll put a whole cupcake like on the top of it
okay,
or
yeah, yeah.
whatever. And so like each one of those is $20 a piece. So if you get your own milkshake, it's $20 a piece. But they sell a flight. So like kind of like if you go to,
Like a
if you're
mini.
going to yeah, so like so a full milkshake is 16 ounces. Flight is 8 ounces, but you get the same amount of toppings. So even if it's 8 ounces, you get the full cupcake on top or the full cookie or whatever, your drink comes with. And with the flight, five, you get five for it. So like you get 5 8-ounce things and it was $55 for that. So we ended up
Wow.
doing that.
That's like half
And
price
I
basically.
couldn't even finish my 8-ounce one. It was so rich. I was like, I can't even finish this. I can't imagine trying to drink, double this. But
That's
yeah, it
also
was
like when you walk in, when you fall into that trap and do that first, and then you got to walk around the parks. Like,
yeah. This was our off day. If we didn't do that,
yeah,
yeah,
right.
yeah. Because I eat super light, especially if you're going to ride any rides, right? I mean, you don't want to be having a full belly and then you're just like
Or having
rotating
to run to the
around.
bathroom.
Yeah. No, but it was.
Did you eat at the like inside the park? Did you eat any of the Harry Potter things, or like did you try any like the
Yeah,
Dr.
we ate at.
Seuss land?
Was
Or
it Mead Hall or what is it? What is it? Meads Hall or what? What's the thing and where they eat at in
and was
Harry
that an
Potter?
epic or
That was that's an epic.
okay? Because I was gonna
I
say
think
that
it's
doesn't sound familiar to me. Because
no,
the other
that was
ones,
Islands of Venture. Islands of Venture. So
well,
that's
so the Leaky Cauldron, I think, is in one park, and then the Three Broomsticks is the other. I don't know about Epic.
okay. We ate at the Three Broomsticks for one of them, and then there was also like Meads Hall or whatever it is. It's it's a Harry Potter restaurant. So we
Yeah.
ate there, and that was at Islands of Venture, and yeah, had like
That's where you had the frozen
shepherd's
butter
pie
beer,
and
or
all
was
that
that
type of stuff there.
yeah? Did
It
you have the
was
frozen
good.
butter beer when you were walking around, or in one of the places?
We ate that at Epic. We had it first. I had that I think the slushy one, and I had it before. I got it in Chicago last year, but we got it this year at Epic. Where they did the crepes in that same place. I ended
Yeah.
up just getting the slushy thing, but the boys got the crepes, and I think one of it might have been that place. They had they had like a hot butter beer. And so the boys, because it was kind of like I said, a little on the chillier side, so they did the hot one, and they liked it a lot. They said it was really good.
Awesome. Well, yeah,
Yep.
I'm jealous. I gotta make it back.
Yep. All right. I think we're gonna end it here, and then yeah. Well, I don't. Jacob and I haven't decided when we're gonna come back. It'll be at the latest. It'll be next Tuesday. I think we're gonna start doing on Tuesday nights because POD is recording on. Apparently, it's still gonna record on Monday nights. So we're trying to just go on an off night from them, just to increases our chance for people to be in our comment section. Just another night for people to have Lions talk. So trying to avoid them. And then if we want to have them on as a guest, it's much easier on a day that they're not recording. So
True.
just think of for the future of the off season. But Jacob and I will come up with a good plan about consistently, and we'll let you guys know when to expect shows from us on a consistent basis. Because I think that's for us, it's better to be consistent, and for you guys to be able to do that. So for Jacob, I'm Jason. Let's go Lions.